How's it going, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of Buddy's House of Horror podcast, and welcome to my review/rant about VHS Beyond, a film that I had I don't want to say high hopes, but I had a decent amount of hope for, and well, you're going to have to listen to the episode and find out exactly what I did not like about it. But before we do that, if you guys haven't already, please make sure you're subscribing to my channel wherever you're listening to the show, whether it be YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts. Make sure you're subscribing, leaving me a rating and a review. And what episodes of the show should I do next? Leave me a comment and let me know. And with that, we're going to get right to my review of VHS Beyond. So now let's get spooky. How is it going, everyone, and welcome back to another exhilarating episode of Buddy's House of Horror podcast. I welcome all of you guys to another episode. Thank you guys for sticking with me throughout October. Of course, we are about midway through the month, maybe a little bit more than midway through the month by the time you're hearing this. But a film came out a couple weeks ago. It took me a minute to watch it. I actually finished watching it last night, but that is a story in and of itself. But we are talking about VHS Beyond. This came out on the 4th of October, so like as I said, a couple weeks ago at this point. But we're here to talk about the film today. So if you have seen the film, this is going to be light spoilers, I guess. I'm not going to go into everything just in case you have not seen the film yet. But we're definitely going to be getting into my deeper opinions about some of these, maybe about how they wrapped up. Not necessarily giving away plot points or anything, but giving away my opinions about how these things have been wrapping up. This intro is a little bit all over the place, I will admit. I am testing out a little bit of a new setup. So it may sound a little bit different than what we are typically used to here on the House of Horror. So I hope it sounds okay. I hope it's not too bad. I hope it's an improvement. If it's not an improvement, then we're just going to go back to the old setup. This is a little bit of a trial and error. So again, with all that housekeeping stuff out of the way, I just want to also say I hope you guys are enjoying your Octobers. I hope everyone out there is having a great October. I hope you've been doing all kinds of participation within autumnal delights. I hope the autumnal delights are aplenty, and I hope you guys are all doing phenomenal. I'm not doing phenomenal after watching this film, to be quite honest with all of you. Just a little bit of background. I like the VHS franchise. It is important to note that I like the VHS franchise. I like a lot of the filmmakers specifically involved in this film, VHS Beyond. This film is this film's a fucking mess. This film is a mess, and I'm sorry to say that, but it is a mess. There are elements of this film, and we'll get into it when we start breaking down some of the segments. I don't know how this was releasable. There are portions of this film that I cannot believe that somebody saw this and was like, yeah, that's fine. Yeah, just put it up. Just put it online. Put it on Shudder. That's fine. We don't need a second pass of this. We'll just put it up. Absolutely mind blown about some of the decisions made within this film. I think, like, quality-wise, this is definitely one of the more lower quality films, which is surprising because it has some of the more high-profile names behind it. There's a lot of heavy hitters, basically, in the horror genre involved with this. So it's a little bit disappointing as someone who is fans of these people, fans of the franchise, to have watched this film and just genuinely not enjoyed the majority of it. I think this is really like this one and VHS 85, which I will be talking about VHS 85 in the future. Both of these films, like a lot of the VHS films, like there's one or two segments that aren't as great. In these last couple entries, there's maybe only one or two that are worth watching out of the segments. I feel like the majority of the segments within this film are not high quality. They're not good. So a little bit of a background of watching this film, just to get into my headspace when I was watching it. So I had just arrived over my good old buddy, Dynamite Jared, friend for a long time. Showed up at his house. We decided we were going to watch a film. VHS 85 had been out for a little bit. We pop it on. And by pop it on, I mean we stream it. Because we didn't actually pop anything into any sort of Blu-ray player or anything, obviously. So, power up Shudder. We turn it on. And we watch approximately the first hour of this film. And during that first hour, both of us had dozed off multiple times. When we get to like the middle segment, the one that involves the dogs, we were all out. It was lights out for me and Jared. We were zonked. So what we actually had to do was we checked the runtime because we were like coming in and out of sleep. Eventually, Jared's wife, Maisie, told us all to wake the fuck up, basically. So we woke up, checked the runtime. We saw we were only midway through, decided to call it a night. We had a day of separation in between. Not us, we hung out that day as well, but a day of separation from VHS Beyond. We actually went to go see a film in theaters called Look Back. It was an anime film. And then the following night, last night, so this was a 3-day process. Well, 4-day if you're counting me talking about it right now. But the 4 days of my life has been involved with VHS Beyond. Last night, the third night, we picked it back up, rewound it a little bit to catch the entirety of the dog segment, and continued and ultimately finished the film, which Jared and myself both gave it pretty low ratings on Letterboxd. Pretty low ratings. And again, it sucks because I like the VHS franchise a lot. I like it as a concept. I like that they're still making them. I like that it's still going on. I like that it's become a little bit of a Halloween tradition to watch these every single Halloween. I love it. It's fun. I like it. I like doing it a lot. These last two entries, and we're going to talk about 85 at another time. So I guess we'll say just this one entry, VHS Beyond. Beyond a reasonable doubt, this film was a mess. This film was an absolute mess. But let's refer to the Letterboxd. No safe space. The infinite playground of forbidden worlds and dangerous life forms offered by the sci-fi horror genre will lead to the biggest, maddest, bloodiest VHS ever. I don't think it was the biggest. I don't think it was the maddest. Certainly wasn't the bloodiest. I mean, I don't have a blood meter to compare it to other films in the franchise. But it's not great. It's not a good film, ladies and gentlemen. But we're going to break down all the segments. We're going to break them down. We're going to talk about them. We are going to discuss VHS Beyond. Again, as I said, vaguely spoiler-free. And we're going to talk about these segments. What did I like? What didn't I like? Starts off with a wraparound, as all VHS segments do. This one, I mean, we don't know this at the time I'm reading this. I'm going to be referencing the Wikipedia page just for some general plot points and the names of the directors and all that kind of stuff. The first one is the wraparound segment, so obviously it weaves in and out between all of the segments and ultimately has a payoff at the end. So I will just kind of introduce what the segment is about, and then when we get to the end of the episode, we'll talk about what the payoff actually is. So basically it is it's called Abduction/Adduction, and basically it is a documentary about a family that moves into a house, and you're trying to figure out what's going on with I believe it's the eldest brother. You're trying to figure out what's going on. They have these VHS tapes of proof, and it's basically, that's what is weaving us into our segments. And I'll just say it right off the bat, the payoff for the wraparound was very cool. I liked the payoff for the wraparound. The problem is, the payoff for the wraparound is only a few seconds. It's got to be less than 2 minutes, the payoff. A lot of times with these VHS films, they'll have the wraparound going, and then at the end, there's at least like 3 to 4 minutes. Maybe it's like almost a partially whole segment to go, just to kind of wrap up the whole thing. This one, it seriously is like 2 minutes at the end, which is a really big letdown, because I was actually I don't want to say like I was overly interested in the wraparound story, but what they were leading up to and what they eventually showed was really cool, and I wish that there was a lot more of it, but unfortunately, it just kind of was there and went. It was gone before you even knew it. So abduction, abduction was the wraparound. And again, we'll talk about that a little bit more when we finally get to the payoff of it. It kind of just makes more sense to talk about it all at once, I believe. The first real segment of this film I enjoyed quite a bit. This is the greatest segment in the film. I don't know where you would rank it within the VHS franchise, where exactly you would put it. It depends on what you're looking for in your VHS shorts. It depends on what you are looking to get out of one of these segments. This segment is called Stork. At the time, we didn't know it was called Stork at the time because of reasons. Because, obviously in these VHS films, they don't say the title of what the thing is before you're in it. But it's called Stork, and it is essentially you're put into first person in a fucking Resident Evil game. It's essentially what it is. It is like you are fighting a horde of zombies in a Resident Evil game, specifically the first Resident Evil game. Like, you're legitimately stars going into a house, fucking up a whole bunch of zombies. But to kind of just give a little bit about what it's talking about, amidst a string of baby disappearances, a police unit dubbed Warden, so not stars, Warden, gathers late at night after having narrowed down the location of the missing infants. So eventually they go to the house. It's dilapidated. There appears to be zombie-like people walking around. One of them, in fact, is wielding a chainsaw. Again, very reminiscent of Resident Evil 4. And basically, it plays out like you're watching a fucking Let's Play. It plays out like you are watching someone play The Mercenaries. It's in the house. It's first person. It's body cam footage of these officers going in this house fucking up a whole bunch of zombies. So it doesn't really excel in the... there's a couple good jump scares in it, but it doesn't essentially give off horror movie vibes. It gives off Resident Evil action, video game, Let's Play aesthetic. And if that's what you're looking for, if that's what you're looking to be entertained by, you'll have a lot of good fun with this first segment. I enjoyed the first segment. I thought the first segment was the strongest segment out of the film. They blew their load way too early. I think if you're sort of making these VHS films, you need to lead off with, you need to have a really, really good wraparound. The wraparound at the beginning needs to grip you. The first segment needs to be all right. You need a great segment to keep you going in the middle, and you need a great segment at the end, and you also need a great payoff with your wraparound. This film blew their load way too early. The best fucking thing is over and done with in a few minutes at the beginning. The ending is hard. The ending of the film in general, the abduction is hard, but it's so short. This is the greatest quality out of anything we're going to be getting in this film, is the very first segment. The zombie designs, they're hit or miss. Some of them look better than others. The reveal of what is actually going on, because as I said, there's missing babies. The reveal of what is doing it and how it came to be such a bad epidemic, I think it's a little bit goofy, but it works within the context. Had I wished there been a better reveal of what's going on, I think this could have been a lot cooler, but it works for what it is. I have to kind of take it for what it is and not what I really want it to be. I would have preferred it to be something a little bit more badass, but for what it is, it works. It's fine. It's a little stupid, but it's campy in a funny way. And in Resident Evil games, sometimes you're fighting like ridiculous looking bosses, so I guess this kind of would fit in, I guess. I don't know. It's a little bit goofy. The second segment is a segment called Dream Girl, and it is essentially, it takes place, in a Bollywood style set. So it's paparazzi, and they are trying to get photos and get in contact with the main singer that this focuses on. And it feels very, very similar. Sorry about that. It feels very, very similar to a film that came out earlier this year called Trap. And it has a lot of similar issues. The problem with this is these are short films. These are very small segments. And we don't really have time to just stop and become a music video for a while. I mean, it literally plays out a song in its entirety, and we watch the performance of it. That's not what we're coming to watch a VHS movie for, I guess. I mean, if that was in VHS 85, and we were watching like a New Order type band, or like a punk band, or a metal band, like that would be different. That's fitting the vibe. Like, this is just like so out of place. And then once you kind of get to the reveal in this one, I mean, it's okay. Like, this segment is okay. I mean, really, when you look at it on paper, it probably is the third best segment. I mean, not counting the wraparound. It probably is the third best segment in the film. But that's not saying much. It's not one of my favorite segments in the totality of all VHS has to offer. And it's just not very interesting, I guess. Like, you can see what is going on for, I don't know, at least midway through, you kind of know what's going on. I don't know. It's not my favorite. Not my favorite. So the next segment is not only one of the worst segments in this film, but it's one of the worst segments, I feel, in all of VHS, in all the films. And it's sad because it was directed by one half of Radio Silence. So I don't know what the fuck was going on. I have no idea what the hell was going on, but this is the one where I talked about, I don't know how this was releasable. I don't know how they saw the special effects in this and thought it was okay. It is legitimately the worst, if not the worst, one of the worst CGI aspects of any film that I've ever seen. It is one of the worst CGI aspects of any film. I don't know how it was releasable, to be honest with you. So basically, I mean, there's not a ton to talk about with the segment. The segment is a group of friends who have gotten together for one of the people's 30th birthday, and they're going skydiving. No, they're not going they're going like parachuting. Or maybe they are going skydiving. It doesn't matter. It's irrelevant. They're in a plane, and they get attacked by aliens. And they end up all falling to the ground. They end up in like an orange grove. And once they're in the orange grove, they're getting run down and chased by these aliens that look absolutely atrocious. This CGI is fucking awful. The aliens, it's kind of hard to describe what they look like. They kind of have like squid-like qualities. Like, they have the classic alien face. Like, they look like an alien that you would draw in a cartoon. Like, they look like your typical, when you think of an alien, just a general alien, not Alien the film, when you think of an alien, that's what these aliens' faces look like. Their bodies are a little bit more unique, but this looks worse than Spawn. Like, this looks like genuinely, this looks like fucking like PS1 graphics. Like, legitimately, it looks like a PS1 graphic. Like, that's not even making a joke about it. That is the facts of what it is. It looks like it was on PS1. And in fact, there's a shot where, like, the sunlight doesn't really match on them that well. There's no way in hell you would believe that they're actually there. There's a full-on shot of one of their faces shooting a laser, like, directly at the camera. And I guess that looks okay, because once the laser starts shooting, but up to that point, it looks completely absurd. Like, these aliens, like, ripping people apart, like, doing whatever. Like, it looks absolutely atrocious. And it's hard for me to really talk about it. Like, it's not even interesting to listen to me talk about it at this point. So I'm just going to move on. Like, there's no redeeming qualities to it at all. The next segment I was also vaguely disappointed by. This is the one that Jared and I were falling asleep during and then restarted and took it up on the other day. This one is called Fur Babies. A notable thing about this one is one of the directors is Justin Long, a heavy hitter in the horror genre, typically in front of the camera. This time he is behind the camera. It focuses on a woman named Becky who runs a doggy dream house, as she claims. And basically, it's a doggy daycare, doggy training center. But there's a group of people who have communist posters on their wall, like a bunch of conspiracy theorists and stuff. And they believe that something more sinister is going on here. So they send a couple of their agents, basically in disguise, with a dog who has a camera attached to it to just kind of see what's going on there. And it's fairly obvious what would be going on here, like, once you get into it. Like, they walk in, they're immediately insulting this woman's insulting them back. Why you would give your dog to this person in general after that kind of interaction is absolutely ridiculous, and how this person is even able to attempt to get customers being so off the wall and ridiculous makes absolutely no sense. She takes them into their basement, where it's like the doggy like training center, and it legitimately looks like a dungeon. And I mean, at this point, she kind of has the two agents cornered as it is, but say for example someone escaped, like, it legitimately looks like a dungeon. Like, there's nothing like subtle about her approach in essentially capturing and kidnapping these people and turning them into dogs. And I am giving away sort of the reveal of this for a specific reason, and that specific reason is this was directed by Justin Long. The aspects of this story are so fucking similar to Tusk, which Justin Long was, of course, the star of. That is insane. That's a film where he gets abducted and he is transformed into a walrus. And the person who has kept him is psychologically damaging him, and so he actually ends up thinking that he is a walrus. And that is exactly what is happening in this, only switching out walrus for dogs. So she basically has people in cages. She's treating them like they are animals. She's feeding them dog treats. She's sewing on dog parts onto the people. Like, she's doing, she'll sew the jaw on them first. They get adjusted to the jaw. Then they sew on the fur and stuff like that. She basically turns them into dogs and psychologically damages them enough to think that they have become dogs. It is the same exact thing in Tusk. So from what originally I heard, Justin Long had wanted to make this a feature film. So I'm guessing it was supposed to be some sort of spiritual successor to Tusk. But I can't confirm that, I guess. But it's the resemblances are very uncanny. It's very uncanny resemblances to Tusk, and it's important to point out because it is the same person who was involved with both. So, not my favorite segment. It comes off very, very goofy, especially once the dog creatures are running around, like they have cameras attached to them as well. So you're literally like a POV, like underneath of a weird dog creature running around tearing people apart. Like, it's a little bit ridiculous. If you look at it on paper, it's not a great segment, but it is funny. Like, it's one of the funniest segments in VHS history. But maybe not for the reasons they intended. I don't know what their intentions were when they made this, but it is a tad strange. The last segment, excluding the wraparound, is called Stowaway. And this has probably like two of the biggest names in horror right now behind it. Husband and wife duo Kate Siegel directing, and was written by Mike Flanagan. And it was very well written. I mean, it was very well directed, but it's just kind of like the story isn't that interesting, and it's kind of hard to see what's going on a lot of the times. I mean, we'll break down the plot like a little bit. It follows a excuse me again. Wow. It follows a woman who is documenting aliens. She goes to the Mojave Desert. She is essentially looking for footage of aliens. She goes by herself. She's camping out, and she's actually taping over home videos of her family to do this, because every once in a while it's cutting back to videos of like a daughter's birthday party or something like that. I don't know if this film was actually shot on VHS. It could have been. It looks like it may have actually been shot on VHS for parts of it. But regardless, basically she finds what she's looking for. I'm not going to give into all of the plot points once she is involved in this, but she does end up finding a spaceship. She finds a spaceship, she goes inside, and then the meat and potatoes of this are what happens when she is inside of this spaceship. The problem is you can't really see what's going on, and there's not enough dialogue and stuff cut away that kind of like makes it fully cohesive. So a lot of times you're just kind of like watching shit, and it's hard to really like care about it, and it's hard to really focus on it because it does feel a little bit not only disjointed with the beginning portions and a lot of the tone that was leading up to it with these other segments, but it's just kind of hard. I mean, I don't know. Maybe I was also a little bit tired when we were watching this because it was at the end of the film, but like, it's very well made for what it is. Like, it's well made, but it's just not that interesting. It's hard to see what's going on. It's hard to really even make sense of what is occurring. Like, Jared had to ask us what was kind of like going on here. So it is a little bit confusing. I can understand why it's a little odd. But it's one of the better segments within this film, but just because of some inconsistencies and some weird shit going on, I can't really recommend that segment either. And once we wrap up with our footage, so during this whole wraparound, it's showing clips of this house, it's showing weird things that happen in this house, it gives more backstory on the family who disappeared and what was going on with the oldest son. There are paranormal YouTubers involved in this who like debunk alien abduction videos. It plays out like it is like a Discovery Channel, ancient aliens type documentary feel. That's what our wraparound is. So between every segment, it's cutting back and forth with that. We get a little bit more information. We see a little bit more of the house. We get a little bit more introduced to the people they're interviewing for this documentary. And then at the end, the text pops up on the screen like, what you're about to see is disturbing. Make do with it what you will or whatever, just like you would if you were watching one of these alien documentaries that has supposed footage within it. And it shows an alien, and it shows what happened to the oldest son. So there is confirmed an alien. There is the oldest son. I won't give away what goes on within this, but it wouldn't matter if I did because, like I said, it's only about a minute. It's maybe less than a minute once it actually starts. So it is a little bit of a letdown because there could have been such potential for a lot of cool things to go on once you were in what you were talking about. I've never really seen one where there's so much buildup to a reveal in a wraparound and just nothing like it wraps up so fast. Like even with a lot of the wraparounds in VHS that I don't really like that much or like at all, at least at the end it gave you a little bit more of a payoff. Like it gave you a little bit more to watch. Like this, like you're watching something cool and then I thought it was going to start doing something else. Like I thought it did a cool thing. And then I thought it was going to show something after that. Like I thought it was going to keep going, but it showed the cool thing and then the credits started. Like I was genuinely baffled. Like I genuinely thought it was going to keep going and it did not keep going. I don't know what else to say about this film. I don't know how good this podcast is. I haven't bitched this long in a while about a podcast. I haven't bitched this long in a while about a film. Maybe we'll bitch a little bit more about VHS 85 when we do that. I might be recording that podcast very, very soon. But it sucks because I like this franchise. I don't wish ill of any of the people involved in this. I want them to do well. I wish that they could have given me a product that I enjoyed, but frankly, I did not enjoy it. I gave it 2 stars on Letterboxd, which is about what I give films that I don't like that much. So if I give a film 2.5, it's fine. It's a fine film. If it's 3 stars, it's a good film. If it's 2 stars, I have a lot of problems with it. If it's anything less than 2 stars, like 1 star, 1.5, a half star, it means like there's almost like no redeemable qualities about it. I could have given this a half star. I mean, not a half star. I could have given this 1.5 star, I think. But I gave it 2 because I did like the Resident Evil segment quite a bit. I do like the people involved. I do like how there was a lot of potential with some of this going on, but it just kind of misses all the marks that they were trying to get, but I could tell that they were trying to make a good film with a lot of this, except for the fucking radio silence segment. I don't know what the hell was going on there. But the other segments, I feel like there was actual effort, heart put into it. Not that the radio silence segment didn't put effort and heart into their segment, but that CGI is just atrocious. But I feel like they were trying to actually make something worth watching with this film, but it fails in almost all regard. So that's why I gave it 2, because there was a lot. I felt like the producers and whatever, they were trying to do something good here. For my personal preference, it does not hit the mark. A lot of people like it. There's a lot of people on my Letterboxd have given it maximum 4 stars, but there's a lot of 4-star people, a lot of 3.5 people, and then Maisie gave it 1 star. I will read Maisie's no, actually, I won't read Maisie's review because it does give away a pretty big spoiler. But if you know anything about speech-language pathology, you might be able to decipher what might go on in one of these shorts based on the titling. But I'm not going to read a review just to keep that little part a mystery. But yeah, it's a shame. I wish it could have been better. I hope when they make VHS next October, I'm able to enjoy it, because the past couple years I haven't really been able to enjoy it on a first viewing. I watched VHS 85 for the first time last year, and I rewatched it to give it another chance. But did I like it more? Did I like it less? Did it stay about the same? You're going to have to tune into the next episode of Buddy's House of Horror to find out. So with that said, we are going to wrap this thing up, and we will see you on the other side. Well, that's about it for this time, you guys. I hope you enjoyed my review of VHS Beyond. If you have seen the film, what did you think about it? Leave me a comment and tell me everything that you liked about VHS Beyond. I did not like a whole bunch about it, so I would love to hear a lot of the positives that you felt while watching VHS Beyond. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure you're subscribing on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, YouTube, wherever you get the show. Make sure you're subscribing, leaving a rating and a review, and spreading the good word about Buddy's House of Horror to your friends. And with that, we will see you back here tomorrow for my review of VHS 85. So take care and stay spooky.